Hi everyone, it's Jeff and Dorian from JDor,
Yeah.
and we wanted to talk to you today a little bit more about some of the things we've mentioned in the past, specifically silence and solitude, and what that means to us and what happened to us when we went into silence, went into solitude. And what we mean by that is when you get away from the outside world, when you cut off the
Off
outside
everything
world,
and
yeah,
yeah.
and just get away from everything for as long as you can. Complete reset, and there's no more distractions. There's no more interruptions. There's just you and you, and all the pain and everything that you bring in there with you is there with you, and you deal with it.
Yeah.
And so we want to talk a little bit about the process and the realizations and the transformation that happened to us
Yeah.
when we went after solitude for real.
Yeah. So for me, I felt like solitude really came when my brother passed away. So grief really pushed me, both of us, into solitude. And in that stillness, that's when we started realizing all the facades that were holding us back and all this identity that we built, and it wasn't really the true us. So the masks started falling, and that's when we really started realizing a lot of things that weren't was not really our true authentic self. And talking about it and going through where you're realizing, like, wait a minute, like this wasn't really what I personally believe. It's just something that maybe someone or the culture or the religion has put on you, and you're just holding on to it. You've built your life
Around
around
it,
this, and you are just holding on to the energy that it takes for you to like hold on to these facades. I came to felt like after letting go, it just I came to realizing how light I became after
that's what it felt like.
going through this
Yep.
huge awakening and realizing, like, wait a minute, like all these things are not me. They're not coming from myself, my inner self. They're coming from someone else has said something,
Mm-hmm.
or you, or it's just something that we've been born into, and we just build our whole identity around it. And I
Yeah.
came to realize like how much it takes so much of our energy to just keep up with that,
To maintain that.
maintain the
Yeah, from
facade.
when we're young, you go to school, you're taught a way to act. You go to church, you're taught a way to act. At home, you're taught a way to act, a way to think, all these things. And everyone goes through this. It's the social conditioning that we all endure to get into society. And after a while, if you sit with yourself quietly, those voices in your head that keep you awake at night, that's the social conditioning
Yes.
banging off the echoing around in your head. Once you start to see that that's what those voices are, you can let them go and set them down. And like Doreen said, the stillness that comes from that is deafening. You can finally hear yourself think.
Yeah.
The real you,
And
the
it's really, it's
authentic you for the
scary.
first time. It's very scary because that self-identity that you've built,
Yeah.
that's you. That's your self-identity. That's
And
what you
once,
spent your life constructing. And to set that aside and say, hey, I'm not worried about all these social labels anymore is a
my
huge,
title,
yeah, all these
yeah,
titles, all these things that I built my life around, to start setting those down is an amazing kind of freedom.
it really
Like
is.
Doreen said, it makes you feel light,
Yeah.
and it makes you question what you were doing all those years.
Yeah.
And that's what we found when we sat quietly. You start to self-analyze and look
Yes.
deeply.
Yes. And most of it, I came to realize most of the things that I would get so angry about, it was all facades. Most of the stuff, like let's say I have an example of I grew up in Kenya, and I grew up with my parents. We didn't like, they didn't do birthdays. And I always explain that to you, like how my parents didn't do birthdays. And then when I came to America, I started getting angry at my parents when I started realizing, like, wait a minute, everyone is doing. I mean, in Kenya, people did birthdays, but
not the same
not the
emphasis.
same. Yes, it wasn't emphasized. At the same time, I felt like we did birthdays back then, but it wasn't as. When you come here, there's that pressure. I don't know how to explain
there's
this,
an
but there's that
expectation for
pressure. And I
birthdays
know
in
now in
America.
Kenya too is like that, but back in the days, we didn't do birthdays and it wasn't a big deal. And I even tell Jeff how I didn't even know my birth date until when I was coming to America. So it wasn't that a big deal for my family. But then when I came to America, there's this facade that, oh yeah, your family gotta do the birthday and it's a
All
big
these
thing, and if
gifts,
they're not
everybody
doing
shows
it, you
up.
feel a certain type of way. So I was angry towards my parents until when I came to that realization, like, wait, this is actually a facade. This is something that's been built and we've all it's like a cultural thing that's been put
Yeah.
there. And then it's like, if your parents don't do it, you get upset. But my parents didn't even grow up with birthdays.
Yeah.
So they didn't even know about birthdays. So I came to realize, like, wait, this actually anger is towards me. I had to look deep within myself
Yeah.
and look at it like, wait a minute, no, it's actually me.
You've
So
been taught birthdays are really important.
yes, when I came to
Are
America,
birthdays important objectively?
yes,
I
no,
mean, that's up for debate. And when you let that kind of stuff go,
yeah,
you end up letting
Ooh, it's getting
go a
chilly.
lot of the stress that you carry.
yeah,
Because a lot of the energy you put out day to day is just holding all your shit
together.
And the more of that stuff you can just set down and let go and be free from, the more of that energy you can just take back. You don't have to just keep yourself from freaking out all day.
Yeah,
You can honestly just relax.
yeah. Most of the stress and depression is self-imposed. I feel like it's
It's
because
trying to live up to outside expectations.
yes, that's what I was going to say. Trying to live up to outside expectations and how much energy it takes to try to keep up with that life. It's just too much, like
A
you
life
said.
that everyone
and,
else tells you that you're supposed to be living.
Yeah.
And you
so
forget yourself along the way. And
that part.
and what we found is that when your public facing facade gets too far away from the real you, you get really out of whack. You're like, the unbalanced washing machine that's just thrashing around, and you get depressed and upset, and you don't know what you're doing in life. And so when we sat and really took a look, we decided to choose authenticity instead.
Yeah.
And
that's how I feel like solitude brought us into all that mask fell off, and what was left was the authentic us, being able to show our real self and be like, hey, this is who I am without me hiding my feelings or worry about some whatever it is. Just being myself and express myself fully without having to worry about what are they going to think, or am I or keeping quiet to maintain peace instead of expressing yourself. All this stuff, I feel like I had to learn everything, basically.
you have to
and
unlearn things and then relearn who you actually are, because you've been suppressing yourself all these
suppressing
years.
yourself, living in this facade bubble where everything is about what we've been taught and what you're supposed to be doing, rather than
we've been
who you are.
Exactly. When you start to be authentic, we talk about laying down all these burdens and how great it feels to let go of that weight, and it does. But there's another side to it as well, and it's when the people closest to you in life say, "You've changed. What happened?
Yes.
You're different now."
That part.
And you're like, "I know I'm different, and it's on purpose."
Yeah.
And it happens suddenly sometimes, and trying to explain that to people is difficult.
It is.
And trying to bring people along with you or to bridge that gap, sometimes you don't, and sometimes you leave people behind.
And also, for me, I felt like being able to be okay with I don't need to explain my journey, because I was really stuck in the space where I have to explain it to my family or my close
And
friends. So
everyone
then
has to be
everyone,
okay with it.
yes, I had to come to that space where no, I come to realize like this is my journey, my truth,
Mhm.
and I have to authentically just walk my path. And
And sometimes people are not going to be
yeah,
understanding of it.
and sometimes it's gonna trigger people, but it's not on me, it's on them. They have to do the work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's been a long journey. We're trying to sum up several years into just a quick talk here, but we'll probably revisit it more. But this is
Yeah.
what we found when we really dug into solitude and real quiet, no music, no shows, just being still with yourself
Hmm.
hour after hour and waiting to deal with what came up.
And allowing yourself to be
So,
honest with yourself, with your feelings and
about
where
what
you're
you're going
at,
through.
and just let yourself, if you need to ugly cry, cry it out.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
transform that
exactly.
energy into something else and then release it. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, all the self-realizations that came with it that allowed
Yeah.
us to set down all the negative stuff that we'd been taught and that we'd been carrying.
Hmm.
So we could finally embrace our
True,
real,
authentic. Yeah.
authentic selves.
Hmm.
That's been the journey.
Yeah.
And that's what we found when we shut everything off.
Yeah. And honestly, for our whole journey has been about just being authentic. And that's what we've come to realize. It's all about being authentic. That's it.
Finding the real you,
The real
but you
you.
have to listen very carefully because it's a quiet voice at this
Yes.
stage. At this stage in my life, after decades of being alive in society,
Hmm.
there's a whole lot of other voices pounding into my head every day. And to find my own authentic voice took a lot of work. And I
I hear you.
don't, that's us trying to explain what we experienced
Hmm.
when we shut everything off and got quiet and how it transformed us in a really good way.
Yeah.
So thanks for listening through all of this. We really appreciate
Appreciate
it.
it.
And
Yeah.
we'll talk to you again soon.
Bye.